Sorry, let's try again. Oh, we can do it. Hi, it's Curtains Up. Welcome to the circus. The glitz, the glam. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Don't miss it. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the biggest little show. I'm Yana Groves, and it's my pleasure to dazzle you with snippets from the zesty world of entertainment. The industry bosses, ballers, and brawlers. I'll be getting down with the jugglers, the backstage bandits, and the tightrope walkers of this deeply colourful industry. My guest today is no stranger to the mic. In the 90s, he was signed by Simon Cowell at Arista Records. And if you're anywhere near my age, you'll be fanning out at the fact that he was a smash hits heartthrob, and still is. He's worked with the likes of Delta Goodrem and Bardot. He's a singer-songwriter, a music producer, and a man with an ethereal heart. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, like father, like son. He's the daddy of the Mac Daddy. The fruit of his loins is none other than the KID LAROI, a talented global superstar with incredible talent, whose musical influence has taken him to the stratosphere and beyond. Welcome, Nick Howard!
Oh, thank you, Yana. That was absolutely beautiful.
Was it beautiful?
And true.
Do you have an ethereal heart?
I do. I like to think I do. Maybe not ethereal, but, you know.
My question immediately is, what's the secret sauce?
Of
your creativity, the fact that you have such a successful family when it comes to, you know, smash hits and wowing crowds across the globe.
Well, it's interesting. I think it's just a drive and a need to be involved with music, in particular, all the arts. I mean, like, I love all the arts, but music for me is such a spiritual force. And I've always had that connection. And I think that the passion behind that is what gets you to get it out there. You know, I didn't really think about how to get it out. I did, obviously, at times think, how am I going to get this out there? But I think it's the driving force behind everything. It's the passion.
And that passion is so... A lot of us have it, but it's very hard to harness it and make a success out of it.
Yeah, it can be. It very much so. And I think that the most important thing is to focus on you and what you want, what you really want. Most people go into a role, business, whether it be business or creative, and they think, I want this, but it's actually not what they want. They want something else, but they haven't looked deep enough to actually find out what that is. And I think so that you've got to start with looking introspectively. If you can. It's hard to step out of yourself and look into yourself and go, okay, well, this is me. I'm an artist, or I'm a business manager, or you know. So once you have that burning flame, I think that's what sets you on the course. Everything, it's kind of like a destiny that is pre-laid before you, and you find that burning passion, and once you do, everything connects somehow.
I absolutely agree.
Oh, good.
It's the same for me.
Yeah.
I think as soon as you are able to let go of fear, something, like you said, something clicks in and you're in flow.
Flow, exactly. I get into that flow state with music. Sometimes I'll just have song after song come, and I just love it. It feels like they're being sent. Downloaded, and I feel like a conduit for what's there. And I think that's where, when you're in that state, you are on the right path. And then everything seems to fall into place. So if you try and preconceive it, if you try and fight against that, or try and make it something it's not, you're going to have problems.
It's hard, isn't it? Because you have to, in the creative industry, you have to believe in yourself. We all have imposter syndrome. I don't know about you, but I certainly do. But we have to find a way to trust in ourselves.
Absolutely. You know, I think that we're schooled, the way that we're brought up, the institutions that teach us, and we're all kind of put into a box. And so it's hard to change. I mean, we're taught, whether it's school, to do this, to learn this way. Creativity and being outside of the box is something that you don't learn so much in school. It's through life's experiences and looking at, whether it's people watching or looking at nature or, finding things that are different, looking at why things are done, not just going along with what you're told. It's like questioning things.
Who were your influences when you were growing up?
My first influence, really, I have to go back to Hugh Stofus, who was my music teacher at school.
Great.
And then growing up and learning about music and being totally involved with it, I loved all the pop artists that were around, and I suppose through the 70s and 80s. I then got to know the people behind the scenes more, like the Quincy Jones and the Rodney Jerkins back in the 90s, or the people that actually were involved with the production and the way that they got things together and the magic behind what they would do. John Lennon, the Beatles were a very big influence. John Lennon's music and Paul McCartney and all of them. I mean, that was probably my first real in-look into that world.
It was, which brings me to those heady days of the 90s.
Yeah.
Under the Simon Cowell umbrella and doing the Smash Hits tour. I think for those who don't know what the Smash Hits tour was, can you explain a little bit? Because, they say, I'm fanning out.
Well, they used to have, it was the poll winners party. So basically there'd be 3 new acts, and then there'd be all these established acts that go on this tour. And at the time, I think we went to Newcastle, Manchester, Sheffield, and then we flew across to Ireland and did Dublin and Belfast. And we'd do these big pop shows where everyone would get on stage, do a song or two, and then you're off. But the feeling and the vibe behind, the crowds was just electric. So everywhere you went, I used to watch this cartoon with the Beatles. That's how I'm showing my age. We're running down the road and they have all these kids following them after them. Well, back in the 90s, even at this stage in pop music, it was like that. We'd come off stage and you'd be going across to the bus and kids would be breaking down the gates to get to you, or whatever. It was just a beautiful enthusiasm for music. And it was I think remembering at the time, for England too, there was a lot of terrorism and that sort of thing happening at the time. There was people trying to identify with music like they always have to try and get through hard times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember my rah-rah skirts.
Yeah.
Well, that was the 80s with my rah-rah skirts.
Awesome.
And living in the UK in the 90s, it was such an exciting time.
Yeah.
Because there was sort of, if I remember correctly, the sort of battle between, the sort of grungy, rocking kind of bands.
Yeah.
There was the emergence or the advent of, big bands like Oasis and Blur. They came a little later. But you had Wham, you had Bros, you had a really cool, as a teenage girl, and I was a teenager. I'm still a teenager, by the way, I'm sure you know.
So am I.
But as a teenager in that, that space, I would have had a poster of you on my wall.
You know what? Probably a smash hit. I know, it was wonderful. It was a wonderful period of time. Actually, the 60s through to that period, and from the Beatles when they took off, and they were a rock band, and then everything went more pop. But they introduced pop music through their rock. It was a very exciting time, and I loved the way that Britain really embraced that musical spirit.
Oh yeah.
And it was back in a time before the internet.
the interweb.
When basically, England had its own style of music, or the Great Britain had its own style of music. Australia was America had its own style of music. There was this rock and there was R&B and rap, and then you had pop over here. Well, Australia sort of was in the middle of all this. And so we'd get records from America and from England, and we had bands that were great, huge in Australia that never broke outside of Australia because they were kind of a bit of this, a bit of that. And nowadays, it's kind of opened up so much that there's no labeling on what music is, whether it's pop, rock. It's really just like music, and it's presented, and songs have become a little disposable, I guess, and artists a little bit too, but the access that we all have to music has changed.
It's changed for the good and for the bad.
For the good and for the bad, yeah.
And speaking of genres of music, your son, Charlton,
Yes.
a number one bestseller, chart-topping superstar. He's been working with Miley Cyrus and Bieber. I mean, look, there's something I want to say to you because I've been saying it to everybody around you. Look how these incredibly respected artists want to work with him.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
They're coming to him.
Yeah.
They need his youth, his juice, all of his energy to, you know, not to disparage them in any way, but they're coming to a certain age where they're not the kids on the block. They're not the new kids on the block.
Yeah.
The KID LAROI is the new kid on the block.
Yeah.
And to be, you know, I don't know, partnered with somebody like the KID LAROI is a huge thing.
Yeah.
And a huge compliment to these huge stars.
Yeah. It's interesting. I got that, you know, like I could see that happening. I think Justin Bieber I was in the home when he first reached out to Charlton, and Chucks was very excited, and I thought, oh, here we go. Now, Charlton was moving into the charts a bit, and I thought it's interesting the big artists were starting to come in, and I thought they're smart, first of all, because they're watching what's happening.
Right.
And the second thing is that was one thing. I think the most impressive thing about what Charlton does is he holds them with him.
It's beautiful to see.
He values friendship and loyalty, and people respect him for that. He's different to a lot of the artists in Hollywood, you know, like in Los Angeles. I think that they like him because he is authentic, and he always has been. I think his driving force to get to where he was has not been manipulated. It's just literally within him to do that, whereas a lot of other artists have had other people kind of mould them and make them into something. And they've watched him come through on his own, because I can't say that I was any help or anyone around him was. It was basically him chasing down this dream, and he manifested everything that happened to him and still does, I'm sure. He's now in that position where he's sort of sitting back going, look, I love music. My thing is, I loved how he says in the documentary, you know, like, I don't want to be the biggest artist in the world. I want to do what I do, and I want to have a positive message and show people what life is about.
And he's doing that.
He is.
And let's talk about the documentary.
Yeah.
I watched it recently, and, you know, of course, was so excited because I have to admit I haven't met Charlton yet.
Yeah.
But of course I've heard all about him.
You've heard, like we were talking before. You've known about what was happening with him since the early days, before anything was happening.
That's right.
So it's interesting that seeing it progress like that, and like I have, you know.
I have to say that there was part of me, my instant feeling when we had our first conversation about your son and how well he was doing. You're like, actually, he's doing really well. It looks like he might be about to be signed. Yeah. He's in LA at the moment, and, you know, things are happening.
That's right.
And I think something in me went, oh my God, I think he was 16, is that right?
Well, he was actually, he signed to Sony here when he was 12. And then it was a development deal. I think he was 15, or he was 14 with A Dream came out when he was 14, just 15, or just turning 15. And I think he signed around 15 or 16.
That's right.
Yeah. To Columbia in New York.
To Columbia, that's right. And so my instinct, my kind of mama bear instinct went, is he going to be okay?
Yeah.
It's a scary world out there, you know, to know that your son is a million miles away physically. Yeah. But also now in the mechanics that is music production.
Absolutely.
How was that?
It was frightening for me because he's also a guy that likes to be really independent. You know, like he doesn't... I can suggest and talk to him about things, but no. Just sit back there, you know, like, you're my dad, that's fine, but don't give me advice on this.
Right.
He had open slather. Basically, he chose his pathway. He went out. He toured with Juice. I mean, he was around the Juice camp a lot when they were traveling, and basically he was independent from a very young age. And I used to worry about that, but, you know, I always knew, funny enough with him, there was something more going on. Actually, from the moment he was born, even. And when he was born, and I swear, I used to tell people this story, and now it's probably more relevant. But when he was born and he was being handed across to his mother and the doctor was handing, I looked at his face and I went, first of all, I went, wow, this kid really does look like an old man. Do babies usually look that old?
He had an old soul.
Oh, he was just like this little old man, and I'm going
sweetie.
I'm going, wow. No, he looks really old. and then all of a sudden I had this feeling overcome me, and it was literally these words, I do not own this kid. And I remember thinking, I've told people this story, close people, for years, because the fact that he's the Kid LAROI, and that I feel like at times, again, saying what we were saying before, the relationship for a father and son in this position or for family is really hard, because he's giving himself to other people.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find the time to have that family dynamic.
To
it's
be
close.
together. And yes, because it's a relationship that you're having to fashion. It's not something that would flow naturally. It's not like he's coming home for dinner on a Sunday.
And the weird thing is, I'm used to this, though.
Yeah.
I mean, and so basically, when he was born, it was kind of like I had this overwhelming feeling. So everything he's done hasn't been a surprise to me.
Right.
It feels like, oh yeah, that
You
happened.
always knew there was something.
There was something going
special.
on. There was something definitely going on. I think he was destined to do it, and I think that he's followed his heart, followed that passion,
Yeah.
just been in the flow state, and just continued to go and make the right decisions. Not always, but I mean most of the time. And I believe that he's got support around him spiritually. I really do.
Wow. I mean, that's how I felt when I was watching the documentary.
Yeah.
And as I said, I haven't yet met him. I hope to.
Yeah.
Because I want to shake him by
you
the
will.
hand.
And I think it comes down to faith, you know, like, and believing outside of this transactional world that we live in. And the reason I say this is because I think I was given some access in living with him over there for a couple of years and seeing everything, and it opened me up spiritually.
Right.
It wasn't all negative, you know, drug, sex and rock and roll. It was
Right.
actually spiritual and like, wow, how did that happen? But it seems normal, you know, like
Yes.
it's very normal. It was normal for all of us, you know, to see it happen.
I think, you know, we all go through life's journey. It sounds so wanky, but we go through life's journey. It's ups and downs. And, you know, Charlton's been through his fair share of pain and success, which in itself is an artist's journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's something sort of, I don't know, it's quite, again, cliche, but
You've got to feel.
You've got to feel. Things have to be raw in order for your art to really come through.
Absolutely.
That's the vulnerability, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I mean, there's a lot of cliches, sayings, things that come up now that you listen to going, that's why we have that saying. You know, the tortured artist, the songwriter who has to be out of a broken love
That's
to actually
right.
write the hit. Boom.
Yes.
And it's if you're not living life in that moment of feel, you're not living. You know, like you kind of, if you're not seeing what's happening really around you and not feeling the moments, you can't create. You're just kind of following something. I don't know.
That's right. It feels quite empty. And
It's
especially for creatives like us. I will also say that I find it fascinating, and what I've started to explore is creativity sits in so many different places and in different shapes.
Yeah.
And, you know, you may not have a quote-unquote creative job, but you're creative in your non-creative job.
Yeah.
I think everybody has that element of creativity.
Absolutely. Well, I saw something, Alfred Hitchcock saying a while ago, and saying, you know, he was affected. He was a very sensitive person, he said. And I'm not quoting him because I can't quote him exactly word for word, but basically he said, and this is something I'd never really thought of, crazy as it sounds, that creation and creativity being so closely related.
Makes sense.
So, I mean, it's obvious, but it's actually not. He said, you know, if you're not being or creating, or if you're not positive and creating a moment or creating something, then you're being negative and destructive. So creation versus destruction.
Wow.
And so basically anything you do in a positive way is being creative and creating something. And if you're doing something in a negative way, he said, if I was standing somewhere and I heard someone in an angry tone talking just next to me, he said that would affect me for days. He said that energy was just like negative, so negative that he picked. Now, that guy, look what he did and how he affected motion pictures.
Oh my God, in every way.
And he was so cued into his soul and understanding the balance that it affected him like that. I found that very interesting.
It is very interesting.
Yeah.
I know people who have the same, feel the same impact from external sources.
And I think if you don't, you've got shields within you anyway. I mean, everyone is. If you're in the middle of an argument or something, it does. It really, but you learn to recover quickly. But you're not actually understanding, probably not processing it enough sometimes.
Not processing why. I'd like to talk a little bit about your musical journey and where you're at now, because you're still writing songs, producing music.
Yeah.
Tell me about your rebirth.
It's interesting. Okay, so Charlton's taught me a lot before we go into that. But one of the things was, I remember years ago, he also said to me, I said, why do you call yourself the KID LAROI? And, I said, where's Charlton Howard and where's the KID LAROI? And he goes, well, look, it's simple, really. He said, KID LAROI is this spirit here that actually does the music, and that's on Charlton Howard is this kid here. And this was very young. And I thought, oh, here we go. Artists choosing a name or finding a soul name, as we were saying before, can be important to some artists to break free of the restraints that they've been brought up by.
Yeah.
So a soul name gives you an identity away from all that. Mine happens to be Peace Phoenix.
Peace Phoenix.
And I came to this living over in LA, and LA gets a bad rap for a lot of stuff, and rightly so, but there's a lot of great, beautiful spiritual energy there as well. And I connected very much on the spiritual level there. I had a studio set up there, and I just worked every day. I wrote 50 songs in like 2 months, and I was just in that flow state. I would swear to you, I had like George Harrison sending me songs. And, I mean, it was bizarre. I'd write a song and it would sound like, I'd go, this is exactly like George Harrison.
Wow.
You know? And then I'd be writing, I could feel almost someone saying, no, don't use that word. And this particular song I'm talking about actually took ages to write because I felt like I wasn't quite getting the message. I'd try and say, and they'd go, no.
Yeah.
Not yet. And then when it finished, it was like, oh, yes, that's right.
Wow.
So I went through this whole thing, and during that time, peace, because I've always been one for peace, actually, although I can get caught up and be over-emotional about certain things, but peace is my heart, I think. And then Phoenix was kind of like a connection I made. I used to look at the sky, and in LA, I swear there's a lot of stuff that goes on there that I couldn't explain. And there was this star, and I was telling someone about it, and he said to me, it was one of the security guards for Charlton, he said, yeah, that's Phoenix. Only if she's looking at you or something like that. So everywhere I went, I could feel this energy, and sometimes it felt like it was coming in and then going out. And so Phoenix, and I identified, so out of that, it was kind of like I got Peace Phoenix. And then, so with all the music I was doing, I found that Peace Phoenix was actually, I could just write, I didn't have to think about what I was doing. I could just do it. And I used that tool, that mechanism to actually help that process. I never really understood why people did change their names so much. Actors, musicians.
Right.
I get it now.
It gives you permission to let it flow.
Yeah.
In some way. It's like, you'd have to be too raw if you're just being you all the time. If you're just flowing through you have blocks that have been created over your lifetime.
Absolutely.
And that maybe this just gives you, it bypasses all of that stuff.
Absolutely. I think that, people talk about changing. I personally think that no one needs to change anything about themselves. They just need to come back to who they were born into the world as. That pure soul, that is untainted, uninfluenced by anything around them.
Yeah.
Until, as soon as the doctor picks you up and touches you, bang, you're influenced.
Yes.
And all the little things that happen along the way that change you and mould you into a human being are actually very environmental. So if you could come into, I used to say the hospitals are the airport to heaven, it's like you've got births and deaths, arrivals and departures, and you're as close. When both my boys were born, I felt as close to God as you could. And when my grandparents died, I felt as close to God as you could, because it was such a feeling in the room, And I can be sensitive to that and feel it more. I think practicing it and using that musical side or artistic side brings that out. But forgotten what I was actually getting at. But don't get me started about the hospital.
I was actually quite happily just enjoying that. I forgot we were doing a vodcast podcast here on the Biggest Little Show. I was just lost in your words.
Let us pray.
Let's pray. I think it's fantastic. I love it. And it's very valuable for us to hear your perspectives, because, for people who are starting out in music out there or starting out in their creative careers, it's great to hear that you've found a way to give yourself permission to be you. And same with Charlton. Same with your younger son, who's doing so incredibly well with Charlton.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, because Oz is really, really talented. He can sports, anything he can be good at. He loves his music, and we used to sit down at the piano and he'd just pick up the piano and play, and he's very natural. He got into doing beats, and he's now really successful as a beat producer and also like in the studio creating music for other artists. And he's got great connections. He's very determined not to have Charlton's helping hand all the time. He was very against, no, even though he is in the position where he's got that help.
Well, yes, and you can't avoid it.
You can't avoid it.
Because it is what it is, and it's a great thing. You're also dealing with young people who maybe can't see moving forward how that looks. But it must be hard. Everybody wants to be individually successful and not be because you are somebody's brother or somebody's father or somebody's son, know. So that must be challenging.
Yeah, no, it is. I think it's, for him it is. I mean, for me, I'm just so proud of both of them. I don't mind being called the Dad LAROI, but,
I'm calling you, I like that, the Dad LAROI, the Mac Daddy, the Big Daddy, the pop-up Papa. I don't know.
I get Pops in LA a lot, and I'm going, Pops, it's like grandparents, come on.
You're like, excuse me, speak up.
Yeah, Pops, and we go, come on, no.
First of all, I want to know, what name should I have? If I'm going to have a creative name, what should it be?
Yours?
Yeah. Oh. Hasan, what do you think?
I think sunshine should be in there.
Sunshine.
Brightness and because you do that. You can brighten a room. You have a magnetic energy too that people are drawn to. I think that you are, for me, a conduit of like bringing people together and just a wonderful energy.
Thank you.
A very clear, bright energy. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I mean, Sunshine does sound a bit like a stripper name, but...
Okay, so Sunshine is my stripper name. What again was the method that you can come up with a stripper name? It's your first pet and your mother's maiden name.
Right.
Well, I can't tell you my mother's maiden name because that's the password to all my things. And that would be very stupid, so I'm not going to. Fifi Trixabelle is fine. Let's just go with that. That's my stripper name. All right, so here we are. What 3 things would you tell someone to pack if they were to run away with the circus?
Okay. Right, now hold on, where are my notes?
And we're talking about the circus. Please pull out your notes.
No, I can remember them.
And just to clarify, if you don't know, I recently co-authored a book. My chapter's called...
Which, congratulations, brilliant.
Oh my God, thank you.
A brilliant result. I mean, like, I knew that you'd do something like this, but I mean, that's like, obviously, I haven't read yet, but I know the success that's coming off that is brilliant.
You're very, very kind. Look, and I really want to disclaimer say, 10 of us women wrote this. It's not just
It's
me.
awesome.
They're incredibly talented women, all put together by the very beautiful Beck Bucci. So it's a series. Anyway, it's not about me today, but the whole point was I just wanted to liken the industry, entertainment, TV, music, radio, to the circus. As a kid, I often fantasized about running away with the circus, and being around like-minded people and, the wild animals and the tightrope walking and the jugglers and the fire breathers.
Yeah.
I always found that fascinating. So I think I did find my running away with the circus, and that is what I do in working in telly and radio. That's my circus.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit of a handbook on what to pack when you run away with the circus.
Absolutely.
So your advice would be?
Well, look, I mean, first thing, actually, Heather and I were talking on the way. We've always said, and I do have a little backpack, which I wear around. I've got all my little bits and pieces in. But if you have a backpack of all your experience, I think you've got to, when I say that, your experiences, so it's finding out everything that you've experienced personally in life, that you carry around with you, that if you need to bring out for any particular reason, you can put it into a song or into a acting thing, a role or whatever. So I think the experience and taking that away.
I love that. I think
that. Having the right intention of where you're heading, and I don't know what form you'd pack that, but you've got to go out the door with the right intention, and that is, it's about satisfying and being true to who you are, finding that purpose and soul and passion. The second thing, the intention and just like the greater good, for the greater good for society, like if you have an intention to make the world a better place, I think that's important, and to follow your passion, find that purpose. So it's more or less taking on board hard times and criticism as a learning experience and not as something that damages you, but it's something that enhances you. So if you could have some sort of a machine that you could take that point of view or perspective, flip it around and turn it into something good. So you need a flip machine.
You need a flip machine.
A flip machine.
A flip machine.
And flipping things is really, really important.
Yeah.
I think.
If anyone has a flip machine, can you please send it to number 30 Acacia Avenue? Because we need it.
The flip machine, yes.
I love that.
I'm a bit of a flipper.
Are you?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a glass half full kind of person.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think there's something to be said for that.
I haven't always been that way, though.
No,
I really haven't.
You grew into.
It's been a very, I think everyone's, the way that we're brought up and everything else, you do tend to, you can look at things negatively, and you can look at people negatively, and you can think you're being picked on and being the victim. But if you can flip that around into being, keeping the mindset clear.
That's right, because if you know yourself, you know where you're going, you know where you've been.
Absolutely.
And so there will always be criticisms and the imposter syndromes and people who doubt or who think that you're crazy and doing something you shouldn't be doing. But as long as you know you're in flow, there's that flow again.
Absolutely.
And you know you're doing it, like you said, for the greater good.
And there are signs. I think that if you can see the signs, whether it's somebody just stepping in and encouraging you at the time when you need it, or whether it's something that comes along that just says, look, you're on the right path, keep going.
Yes.
If you're getting those signs, if everything's against you all the time and you feel like you're
step back and take a minute.
You need to stop.
Yeah.
And just take
you
don't need to go through that. I believe the universe is this is meant to be a kind, loving place, and you're meant to be having a good time. The other important thing is to take your toys, because you've got to play.
Yes.
You've got to play. You've got to enjoy the experience, because if it's not enjoyable, that's not living.
What's the bloody point?
What's the point?
I'm absolutely of the mind that this is our playground. We're here for a good time, not a long time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And this is a beautiful point at which to say thank you.
Oh, Yana, thank you. It's been lovely sitting here and chatting. It's, I always love thinking about life, actually, and especially supporting creatives But we're all creators and we all
Yes.
have that ability, and I think
Yes.
it's important to see that side of life.
I think you're tremendous. I think what you do is amazing. I want to hear you play more. I have heard you play once.
Yeah,
I want to
thank
see
you.
you on that stage. And thank you for inspiring us. And thank you for bringing us some of the world's most superb, sublime talent.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yana.
You know, I really mean that. All right. Well, that was the fabulous Nick Howard. I'm very, very lucky to have this platform to share with you these incredible people who have inspirational stories. They really, Nick in particular, is somebody that just gets me so excited and ready to keep creating. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got plenty more to come, many more episodes. Don't forget, we've got lots of content. Courses. Don't forget, like, subscribe, a link in bio, all the fun stuff. Thank you for supporting us, and we'll see you next time. Mwah! Stand out and be outstanding. We don't mess around here.
No, I can tell.